Penta has arrived in WWE. Today we're going to go through just some of our main picks here of who we'd like to see him feud with over the course of 2025. Penta's first match in WWE was against Chad Gable, and I thought it was awesome. They told a really good story of just Chad Gable trying to work the leg of Penta. I felt like it was the right match to do with him as his opening debut. I'm very curious though how WWE will utilize Penta throughout his first year. So I have some names who we want to see Penta feud with over this next year. So drop your Penta picks below for opponents. And while you're there, if you guys can hit subscribe, because we're trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the time we get to WrestleMania 41 this year. Okay, the first name is kind of an obvious one. Let's get it out of the way almost, right? Rey Mysterio. Everybody thinks that it's gonna be Rey Mysterio. In fact, I think WWE almost planned to have Penta and Rey tag together against like the New Day originally. I feel like that was what they were playing with and decided to go in a different direction. And I'm really glad they did, because I didn't want to see Penta and Rey tag. Like getting Penta in the LWO world, I don't want that. LWO is not very hot right now. It's a little cold. They can heat Rey up anytime. Rey wrestles like forever, doesn't he? So I think that you could have eventually a really good one-on-one match or series of Rey versus Penta. They're both baby faces. Like that's how it is right now. Penta is totally presented as a babyface, but he's a unique babyface. He's not a traditional one. I feel like you could have Rey versus Penta, WrestleMania 41, kind of a dream match for the luchadors. It doesn't have to be heel versus face. You can do it where it's just two guys, two luchadors that want to prove out who is going to be the best. Now, I would hope that WWE would hold back in just giving us this match like on just a random Raw. A series of matches between Rey and Penta could be a lot of fun, right? You could almost do a best of 7 series. I remember when Andrade and Rey were having a series of matches on SmackDown, and I absolutely loved it. You want to save that. I think it's a pretty big deal. And before Rey retires, I think that's the match you want to have. I'm pegging that one in for WrestleMania 41, but I don't want Penta in LWO world. Another one, and it's on SmackDown. Now, I think Penta is on Raw. Like, he kind of fits on Raw, doesn't he? And there's this transfer window where people are just walking in, walking out, doing whatever they feel like. I don't think Penta is going to make the move to SmackDown. Raw feels like his home. But if there were trades, if there were shakeups in 2025, I'd love to see Shinsuke Nakamura and Penta going at it one-on-one. Maybe in a future draft, you could get Shinsuke over to Raw. Maybe he has the US title or the IC title, but Shinsuke Nakamura in this iteration, dark, mysterious, he's got a better character than what he's had in the past. And I'd just love to see what the two of them could put together and concoct. What are they fighting over? I don't know. Maybe it's for a title, or it's just who's the more badass. But Shinsuke is totally on my list. Now, I mentioned Rey Mysterio before. What about Dom Mysterio? Could you do Dom versus Penta? And I'm talking more of like feuds. Like, I'm sure you could have Penta and Dom one-on-one in just like on a random Raw, but could you tell a better story of that? I don't know what stories, like if you're gonna get into feuds and long-term stories with Penta, I don't know what stories you could really tell. Other than Dom, and if it's Dom specifically, I don't know what Dom could do other than come out and say, "You are as bad as my deadbeat dad. I want to fight you." Now, I did just think of a cool idea, something we didn't get with Rey and Dom. You could do a hair versus mask match for Dom and Penta. What if they don't want to do Rey Mysterio and Penta at WrestleMania? What if Rey is in Penta's corner and it's Penta versus Dom at Mania one-on-one? Kind of like we had Rey versus Dom, and you get the luchador and the hair guy, and you get his mustachio. Maybe it's mustache versus mask match. They could do something like that. Kind of traditional luchador match, right? The hair versus the mask, or with Dom in this case, the mustachio. But that would be a lot of fun. Great showcase for Penta, something that's on the line. He could beat Dominic, obviously, at Mania. And then eventually he could have like the one-on-one match with Rey, maybe for SummerSlam or the following year's WrestleMania. Now, I saw this idea floating online. Finn Balor versus Penta. But if you did Judgment Day versus Penta, I think that could work because you stack the odds against him, and Finn Balor would be excellent in a lot of different matches. And I think a lot of people start thinking about, well, bring the Demon out. I think you could do that. You could revitalize Demon Balor down the road, get him all done in his makeup, and go up against Penta. Maybe Finn Balor should move away from Judgment Day. I do feel that, honestly. That's a separate video, but I think that Judgment Day needs to just say goodbye. We've done enough here. I don't know how much more feuding with Damian Priest they could possibly do. But even like sooner rather than later, if Judgment Day in its current form is going to stick around on Raw, them interacting with Penta could be a lot of fun, and you get guys doing a lot of bumps like Dom and Carlito and JD, and ultimately Penta could try to take down Finn Balor. Finn Balor also separately, he needs to get some wins. He's turning into Seth Rollins where he loses all the time. Now sticking with Raw, because there could be shakeups and all of that, but let's stick with like a roster that we kind of have today. Could you see Penta going after a title? I could see him at least challenging for different titles, not necessarily winning them. And I'm not saying like right away, it's not next month. He's not gonna turn around and start dummying people and then winning like crazy. Keep the mystique and keep the aura of Penta there. He could have several different opponents, and if he's gonna get involved in titles, you could see Braun Breaker versus Penta in kind of a hard-hitting match, a different type of character for Braun Breaker to go up against. Breaker's a good superstar too because he's almost a tweener. Like he can be a heel any given week to go up against Sheamus. Or if he's fighting Ludwig Kaiser, then Breaker's the face in that one. But I could eventually see Penta with like the IC title, and you know what? You could do a similar thing with Penta like you've done with Jey Uso and are currently doing, where you can roll him up to the world title. Let's say it's Gunther. I'm sure Gunther's gonna drop the title and it's going to somebody else. Gunther's story isn't working for me anymore as champion. But if it was Gunther, you could put Penta up against Gunther in a title match, and he doesn't necessarily have to win in that case. He'll never sniff Cody's title, like that ain't happening. But you can flirt with him in like the world title scene because they like to shake that title up so much. Now a match I could see them do, and I could see this for WrestleMania. Not necessarily what I want, but it would be a very big contrast in terms of characters. I think you could do Penta versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania. Now, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of you probably just went, ugh, at me. And I agree. I don't really want that. I'm just saying that as a possibility for him at Mania. Who is Logan Paul really gonna face at Mania? You know he's gonna get there for WrestleMania and do a big spotty match, but I feel like he's kind of gone through all the opponents and whoever is really available. Maybe you have Logan Paul coming out week after week and just talking about how he needs an opponent and he's just doing like an open challenge. Boom, Penta enters at WrestleMania. An open challenge for Logan Paul at Mania? It's not a bad idea. It's almost Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes when Cody came back. You could surprise everybody a little bit. Logan Paul could be in the ring at Mania on night one. He's talking trash in the ring and he says, I haven't gotten any challengers because I'm too good and I beat people before. So, hey, anybody out there want to come in and fight me? Boom, Penta enters. And then you do get like, the thing is like, I don't like Logan Paul that much, but for in the ring, he can cut good promos as a heel and he can pull off all the moves. So him and Penta with their styles, I think that they could do very well in the ring, and then you have Penta go over. And to get Penta to WrestleMania this year, get him in a one-on-one match, I think he needs to enter the Royal Rumble, have a good showing, and maybe get eliminated by, for example, Dom Mysterio, and maybe that is a WrestleMania match they want to do. Or Logan Paul eliminates Penta in the Royal Rumble, just to help set him up for his future match. The thing too is I don't want WWE to overexpose him in terms of having him go out every week and just putting on really good 10-minute matches. I think for a character, for someone like Penta, you want to reserve almost. If you put him out there too much, the fans might just kind of get used to him being on TV every week and know that they're going to get a really good, fun match for 10, 15 minutes, but he's not sniffing any titles and he's not really in any programs. You know what I mean? There's certain superstars on the roster that for a good stretch of time, they end up in that position. I think of like SmackDown's USC mid-card scene. It's a lot of guys that are just going back and forth trading wins, where it's going to be Andrade and Carmelo and LA Knight and Shinsuke all kind of mixing it up every single week, and it's the same rotation. On Raw, it's kind of like that with Braun Breaker, Ludwig Kaiser, and Sheamus. You're just constantly going after each other all the time. If you put Penta in that category as the mid-carder and a constant mid-carder that's on Raw every week, I worry that it is like Ludwig Kaiser, and don't get me wrong, Ludwig's great, but that you're having him just there, just trading wins and losses, and he's not involved in any big-time stories. So keep him very unique, mystical, don't know when he's gonna show up. And I think that would excite fans more than just having him out there every single week. Now, there are other names, and I'm thinking more on the top end of the card. Could some of you be like, hey, he should be going up against Roman and Cody and Kevin Owens and CM Punk and Drew McIntyre? I think that they are very heavily involved in 2025 in their top end stories. I don't think Pentagon Jr. is going to get to that level just yet. One name I do see him working with, Seth Rollins. And I say that because Seth is often involved in the stories with returning superstars, and he puts them over, and Seth's great, but it's almost like that's his thing. Cody comes back, loses to Cody. Punk comes back, eventually he loses to Punk. And didn't he beat Bronson Reed? But they had a short thing, but Bronson Reed versus Seth was a lot of fun. A lot of destruction. So don't get me wrong, Seth's great. He puts over a lot of guys and elevates people. But I can totally see Seth Rollins in 2025, once he's done with the world title and Punk and this thing that's going into WrestleMania, when things cool off and it's like summertime and you don't really know what you're doing with Seth versus Penta could be very good. And the last match that obviously we all want to see, Chelsea Green versus Penta, just like they did in Lucha Underground. I am kidding. They're not going to do intergender matches. So what's the road for Penta in WWE? You guys let me know. And if you want to talk more about like the road and the road to WrestleMania, that's a bad segue, but we got this video talking about CM Punk and what the plans and all the different paths that he could take on his road to WrestleMania. Have a great day. See ya.